and welcome. Welcome to Social Media 101, how to create the perfect content calendar. We are happy that you're taking time out of your day to join us today. And my name is Kimberly. I'm part of the QGive team. If you haven't had the opportunity to work with us before, we're an online fundraising platform dedicated to helping nonprofits raise more money. And how we do that is through webinars like this one today. Today's webinar is going to be right around 45 minutes with a Q&A session to follow. So keeping our total time together today to right about an hour. We are recording the presentation and we will be sending a copy of that recording as well as a copy of the presentation and some other great resources your way tomorrow afternoon. So be on the lookout for that email. If you do have questions at any time during the presentation, please go ahead and put them into the Q&A, the questions box, and our presenter is ready to answer and discuss those at the Q&A portion that follows. After today's webinar, please make sure to take our survey. It's a short 4-question survey. We'd love to get your feedback. It's crucial in how we determine future content for webinars and other resources that we develop throughout the year. So before diving into today's presentation, just wanted to take a quick peek at QGive's background, mission, and offerings. QGive's been helping nonprofit organizations like you implement and grow their online fundraising programs since 2007. And as the importance of online giving continues to grow, our mission remains the same, and that's to help others fulfill their passion to make a difference. And we do that through a comprehensive suite of fundraising tools featuring everything from donation forms, event registration, peer-to-peer fundraising, text giving with outbound messaging, and auction events. We value our relationships and we are proud to connect our nonprofit friends to our partner networks in hopes that it helps you increase your nonprofit's effectiveness. And today we're excited to introduce you to one of our strategic partners, Achieve. Achieve Agency is another name they go by. They're a digital agency specializing in working with nonprofits in storytelling, web technology, digital marketing, and social media. And we are joined today by Erica. And Erica, I know I always say your last name, but I'm going to let you say it. Erica is the Director of Marketing at Achieve. So Erica, how about you tell us how you pronounce your last name, and then we'll just jump right on in.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Kim. My last name is Linguanti. So it sounds like a pasta. Yes, it is Italian. So we'll go ahead and get started today. As Kim mentioned, Achieve, we are a strategic partner with QGive. We love working with QGive. Lots of our clients use the platform. We also offer exclusive discounts to QGive users. So if you need help with your website or even some digital marketing or social media, feel free to check that out at achievecauses.com/QGive. But today we're going to talk about social media. So if social media has you feeling really stressed out and you're not quite sure what to do with it, let's get you calm, cool, and collected today. And as Kim mentioned, if at any point you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them at the end. So today we're going to talk about why it's worth investing in social media. So if you have any stakeholders in your organization that you need to convince that you should be doing more on social, I'll give you a few talking points to help with that. We're going to help you take inventory of your existing channels. We're going to build a social media strategy based on your unique goals for your organization. We'll also talk a little bit about ways to kick it up a notch, maybe elevate your current strategies. And then, of course, if you have any questions, let us know. So first things first, why should you invest in social media? The answer is really simple here. It's that your people are there. So about 72% of Americans are using social media, and they're spending on average about 2 hours per day. So your supporters, your volunteers, the people you serve, they're definitely on these platforms, and that's a great channel to reach them. Also, on average, multi-channel is really important because most social users are visiting multiple social platforms each month. They're not just in one place. So multi-channel strategies are definitely very effective for these platforms as well. But beyond the obvious that people are there, they're also spending money on the platform. So if you're looking to up your fundraising game online next year, this is viable for you. If we're looking at just e-commerce, last year, 1 in 3 Facebook users made a purchase directly from the platform. So they saw an ad and they bought something through the Facebook shop or on a website. And it's also estimated that by 2025, social media e-commerce is going to exceed almost $800 billion. People are already spending money here. And then in the nonprofit world, we already know just through Facebook and Instagram fundraising tools, which is really just a drop in the bucket in terms of most organizations' broader online fundraising strategies, $5 billion has been raised through Facebook directly over the years. So there's definitely, and that's just talking about their donation processor, their Facebook donation account, which we'll talk about later in the session. So that's not accounting for, ads that are driving to your website and making donations there. That's just through Facebook processing. So people are used to giving on the platform, and they're also used to spending money there. So if you're not doing a whole lot for this for your fundraising, there's definitely some opportunities for your organization in the future. So you don't want to miss out on these opportunities. But now let's take inventory of your channels. So oftentimes, I see people with social strategy, they want to jump right into posting, right? But there's really a lot of legwork that you need to do first to really understand what are we doing, what's working, what isn't, what are we trying to accomplish, and building a strategy around that. So I always recommend whenever we work with a new organization for social, we always take a step back. Also, even throughout the year, the clients that we're already managing their social channels, we are regularly taking step backs to take inventory of, what social channels are we on? How often are we posting? How many followers do we have? Just really trying to understand where are we at today. Another thing that I hear from a lot of the nonprofits that I work with is they get really stressed out if they don't have a ton of followers. So I always like benchmarks, kind of gives you some industry averages. Our benchmark reported that for every 1,000 email subscribers a nonprofit has, they have about 700 Facebook followers, 200 Twitter followers, and almost 150 Instagram followers. So if you don't have a lot of people following you yet, don't stress out. Talking to a handful of people that are really invested in your organization is better than ignoring them completely. So, growth can always happen over time. Those are some benchmarks for you. Once you've kind of taken a step back and you figured out, okay, what are we doing today? Where are we posting? How often? What's our follower count? You want to find your baseline. What's your average engagement rate? Are you posting all the time, but your engagement rate's really, really low, around like 0.5%, or is your engagement rate really strong? What are some of the top posts that you've had in the last month or last year or even last week if you're posting really often? What are some of your worst posts that people didn't really engage with? Are there any commonalities between that? Are you seeing that your top posts are featuring imagery versus a graphic with some text overlay? Are you seeing that your top posts have, tangible recommendations for people who support your cause of like how they can get involved, and here's some tips for their real life? Is it news articles? What type of content's working for you now, and what type of content isn't working for you? Just kind of taking that step back is really helpful. If you're not sure how to find your engagement rates, there's a really simple formula for that. You just take your engagement. So likes, comments, shares, can be saves if you're on Instagram, but total engagements on your posts, and then you're going to divide that by your followers and multiply by 100. So usually I like to see a healthy engagement rate of 4 to 7%, 10% or higher. You're crushing it. You're doing really well. However, there may be instances where your engagement rate is even much higher than that on a really engaging post. So in this example, the number of engagements was almost the same as the number of followers. So it had a 76% engagement rate. The next step on that is, well, why? Why did this do so well? Well, in this case, this is a sea turtle organization, and it's giving people, their followers, value. So their followers are people that are already engaged in their mission. They want to help protect the sea turtles. And then this is real world advice of like, hey, refuse single-use plastic, fill in those holes and knock down your sandcastles before leaving the beach. These are things that you can do today to help hatchlings survive. That's valuable content to people that are tied into this mission, and it was highly shareable. So this post was shared 55 times because they wanted their friends to know, hey, these are things that you can do to help the sea turtles, right? So sometimes if you have content that's really valuable and highly shareable, in particular, you might have a post that goes much further than your kind of normal 4 to 7% range that we'd like to see. Another thing you want to think about before we really dive into the building of your social strategy is how much time, what's your scope which is your time and money, how much of that can you really invest in social media? It's one thing to say, hey, we want to be on 8 platforms and we're going to post every day and we're going to do all these great, wonderful things. But if you don't have the staff and the time to support it, or you don't have the money to outsource and pay somebody to do it for you, that may not be realistic. So you want to think really realistically with where your organization is today, what scope is reasonable to you? How many hours a month can you really commit to this, or how much money can you invest in this? And you want to just kind of get a baseline, and you can always build from there, but it helps be realistic about where you're at. Once you've kind of figured out how much time you can really put into this, let's talk about ways to build your social media strategy based on your goals. Now, there is a worksheet that I believe has been sent out or will be sent out with the slide that you're welcome to use to kind of walk you through these steps as a refresh. But you certainly don't need to use the worksheet. You can still do all of these things without it. But the first thing you want to do with any social strategy is you want to start with your goals. Again, I see a lot of times it's in reverse, where organizations, they start with, oh, I have this picture, so I'm going to post it. And they want to get into just posting, whereas you really need to think about, well, why are you posting? What are you trying to accomplish? Do you need to educate, your community about what you do? Do you need to raise awareness for your services so, people who need help can come to you? Are you trying to get donations for urgent appeals? Are you trying to increase engagement from your volunteers or update your donors about, the impact that they've made by supporting your organization? Depending on what you do, are you in the change-making space? Do you need to influence political policy? Or are you trying to showcase your corporate partnerships? Whatever your goals are, you need to spend some time thinking about, what are your top 2 or 3 things that you're trying to accomplish with social media, so we can build a strategy that ladders up to that versus just passively posting based on the photos that you have in your library today. So once you've figured out your goals, spend some time thinking about who do you need to reach to accomplish those goals. Who are you talking to on your social channels? Is it your donors? Is it your volunteers? Is it the people that you serve? Is it corporate sponsors? Who do you need to be speaking to directly? And this may vary platform to platform. LinkedIn is a really great B2B platform. So if your goal is to really highlight your corporate partnerships and other nonprofits that you partner with in the community, maybe that's your goal of LinkedIn. That's who you're talking to there. But Instagram might be very different. So spend some time thinking about, what are you trying to do, and then who do you need to reach? And then what platforms are the people that you're needing to reach? What platforms are they using? So that way you can tailor your content on those channels to be about them. Another kind of trap that I see a lot of the organizations I work with fall into from time to time is they want to talk about themselves all the time. And that's great, but there's a lot of ways of how can I make this personal for somebody else? How do I get their buy-in? That Futrall example was a good one of, I want to talk to my supporters and I want to give them value to help this mission, but I'm not necessarily saying, hey, as this organization, we're doing X, Y, Z. It's, hey, this is what you can do, right? We're making it about them. Now, that doesn't mean all of your posts will be that way. Certainly, you might have some press or things going on where you're going to talk about yourself blatantly. But for the most part, you want to make sure you're tailoring your content to be about the people that you're trying to speak to. If you're not sure what channels your supporters are on, here's a good breakdown for you. So Facebook is definitely still king, despite even the negative press and the meta universe we're all living in. But the truth is that's where the bulk of your people are probably hanging out. Most Americans are on the platform, and the average user is spending almost 20 hours a month on the platform. This platform also does skew a little bit older. So it's not, the TikTok where half of the users are under 30. Almost a fourth of all users on Facebook are over 45. So a lot of your donors and your supporters are definitely there. So that should probably be in your mix if you're only doing one platform. That one platform usually seems to be the one that most nonprofits gravitate towards. Beyond that, Instagram is another great platform. About 60% of the users are between 18 to 34, so kind of middle of the road there, but it is perceived as a more positive platform overall. So see a lot of nonprofits enjoying that platform, having a lot of fun there, finding a lot of support there. TikTok is one that I get asked about all of the time. Very similar behavior to Facebook in the sense that people are spending a lot of time on the platform, almost 20 hours a month. But as I mentioned, almost half of users are under 30. So this is very much if you're trying to reach Gen Z, that is a good place to go. In terms of whether TikTok makes sense for your organization, that depends on your goals. What are you trying to do and who are you trying to reach? If you're trying to lay foundation with Gen Z so they can grow with your organization over time, or you're looking for them for volunteers, or maybe you're a youth-focused organization and you want to talk about, things that you offer to youth in your community, TikTok might make a lot of sense. 40% of Gen Z has reported being directly influenced by brands that they've seen on TikTok. So there's a lot of opportunity here, but again, it depends on how much time and energy you have for social, and then what are your goals. TikTok may not make sense for you today, but it's something to keep an eye on for the future. For other organizations, it makes perfect sense to get started with. LinkedIn is another one that I see working really well for a lot of the organizations that I work with. Although it is very different user behavior. It's more of a B2B platform. It's really people of working age. So in the US, about 80% of users are 25 to 54. And people aren't spending hours and hours a month on the platform. They're spending about 20 minutes or less a month. Where I see LinkedIn making a lot of sense for a lot of organizations is things like, highlighting your board, highlighting, partnerships in the community that you're doing, hiring or recruiting, even volunteer opportunities. That might be a good place for you to be. So depending on what your goals are, if you're not on LinkedIn, that might be one to take a look at. And then the last one that I get asked about all the time is Twitter. And a lot of the organizations I work with are struggling with Twitter a little bit, or they're not seeing the same results as on some of these other platforms, and they're not sure if it makes sense to be there. The reason for that is, only 22% of Americans are on Twitter. So you have a smaller pool right out of the gate compared to some of these bigger platforms like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. And the platform definitely does skew male. About 70% of all users are male. So depending on who you're trying to reach and what you're trying to do, it may not make sense. Twitter is also more of a one-on-one conversational platform. So if you don't have the time and energy to be responding to tweets directly and having those one-on-one conversations, it may not make sense. That being said, depending on what you're doing, it could be what you need. If you're looking to influence policy in your community, Twitter probably makes sense. If you have a lot of PR, news and press that you want to tag people in, Twitter also makes sense. So it really just depends, again, what are your goals? Who do you need to reach to achieve them, right? Another thing that you should definitely do as you're kind of taking the step back is look at your existing social channels and then look at your audience insights to see right now, what kind of age ranges are you already attracting? Where do they live? Just to try to get an idea of, are my current followers in alignment with who I'm trying to reach with my new strategy as well? Once you've taken a step back and you figured out, okay, these are my goals, this is what we want to accomplish, this is who I need to reach, you want to come up with an editorial vision. Now, this can be really informal, something behind the scenes that your organization uses. It really should just answer 3 core questions of what is your target audience, what are you providing them, and what's your ideal outcome. So this is a for-profit example, but I always liked it from Redbook magazine, Style and Confidence for the Busiest, Messiest, Happiest Years of Your Life. From the imagery, I understand, and some of the copy, busiest and messiest, I really understand quickly that it's women, typically mothers, is who their target audience is. They're providing style and confidence, and the outcome is the happiest years of your life, right? So this is just something really simple that you guys can have in the background when your team is working on social content. Kind of have in the back of your mind, hey, these are the things that we're laddering up our content to. This is who we're talking to. It doesn't need to be public facing. It's not your mission statement. It might mirror some of your mission statement, but it's really just something to help you kind of get in that mindset when you're working on your content of who am I talking to and why. Once you figured out your editorial vision, you're going to want to identify your content pillars. Again, this is something that's not public facing. This is behind the scenes to help you and your team come up with your social content calendar. I find the easiest way to figure out what your pillars are is to just start making a giant list. Identify all of the topics that you want or need to include in social content throughout the year. And then from there, group them into 3 to 5 buckets. Once you have your buckets, you also want to make sure you're prioritizing your top 1 to 2 buckets that are most important to you. So as an example, this is a Goodwill that I've worked with. Their content pillars ladder up into kind of 4 core buckets. Brand, which is things like mission, about us, any kind of press or media, awards, staff highlights, annual fundraisers, past work or impact. That kind of all falls under brand. And then stores is the second big pillar for them. So store locations, outfit inspo, home decor, promotions, online shopping, user-generated content known as UGC. All of that's going to be in the stores category. Those 2 buckets are the most important for this particular organization on social. It's about 50 to 75% of all of our content circles around those themes. However, there are 2 other buckets in the content pillars that need to be included in social content throughout the year at different times. So one is jobs, so job placement or job training programs, any kind of testimonials, employee spotlights, etc. That's going to fall under the jobs category. And then community, that really varies throughout the year. Sometimes it may be holidays or special events that are going on. Maybe it's volunteer opportunities or one-off content of, hey, we had this partnership with United Way and we want to thank them for their support, right? Community highlights, all of those things has a place in the mix, but it's not the core thing that we're going to be talking about in every single post. Right, so this is an example to do your own pillars. Just start brainstorming. Get out a pad of paper, start writing down all the things that you think you need to be talking about on social, and then try to group them together into buckets and pick 1 to 2 that's most important to you as well. So you make sure you have enough content laddering up to the things that you need. Now, once you've done all that, now you're finally ready to build your calendar. So again, we're not just starting with, oh, I took this picture a week ago, let me post it. We want to be strategic in the types of content that we're sharing. So again, instead of just passively posting or going, hey, I have this photo, I'm going to post it, we want to be more intentional. So the first step is to figure out what's your timeline. What's the date range that you're building your calendar for? Are you building your calendar 2 weeks at a time, 3 weeks at a time, a month at a time? I definitely recommend pre-scheduling your content at least 2 to 3 weeks at a time if possible. But for today's example, we'll say that we're planning the whole month of November. You want to figure out your date range. And then from there, you want to figure out how often are you going to post on each channel. Are you posting every day? Are you posting every other day? For this example, let's say 3 to 4 times a week. So about every other day, we're going to have a post. I find that that's a pretty healthy cadence for a lot of organizations. If you're kind of pressed for time, you don't have, a huge staff, you can't necessarily pay to outsource to somebody. 3 to 4 is a good goal. But however, if right now you can barely post once a week, maybe it's just getting consistent. Maybe you say 2 to 3 times a week, right? So figure out where you're at and come up with something realistic. But for today's example, we'll say we're going to post 3 to 4 times a week. Once we figured out our timeline and our cadence, you want to figure out what are the posts that can't move on the calendar. Are there holidays or are there any time-sensitive content like events or deadlines that we need to make sure we have a post for? So if we're looking at November, we'll say Veterans Day, we know we definitely want to do a post for. We want to do a post for Thanksgiving, and then Giving Tuesday is a priority as well. So we're going to have a post on Giving Tuesday, as well as at least one the week prior to remind people to give on Giving Tuesday. So these are the placeholders that we know can't move, that we're going to need content for. Then from there, create placeholders for your must-haves. Are you doing a weekly hashtag? So in this case, we're doing a special hashtag for this organization of Success Saturdays, or whatever you have going on at your organization. So we know every Saturday we need a post for that. Or is it important for your organization to have one post with a call to action every week? So encouraging people to donate or volunteer or do something, sign a petition. Are you have a fundraising campaign that's running in the month of November? So you know that you need a lot of content to support that. Figuring out what your must-haves are, as well as what dates can't move. just to kind of give you your outline to see what you have so far. And then from there, you're going to go back to your content pillars and you're going to fill in the gaps with ideas from your content pillar bucket. I find that the content pillars are really helpful, especially if you have, you know, kind of an intern or younger staff members that maybe aren't as inundated in your organization as you. Kind of gives them a cheat sheet so they can look and go, oh yeah, we haven't talked about this in a while, but I know that there's this good story I could share. Or, you know, kind of gives them a little bit of a roadmap so they can fill in the gaps instead of guessing at what you need posted. You definitely want to make sure you're varying your posts to avoid being overly promotional. So in this example, we've got, you know, something from the pillar 1 bucket and then something from the pillar 2 bucket. Pillar 3 down here, you know, we're really mixing it up. It's not the same content over and over and over. And again, you want to make sure it's appealing to your target audience, not necessarily just promoting yourself all the time. So once you've done all of that and you figured out your outline of what you need to be talking about for the month and why, then you're ready to go find your creative. You can go look through your photo library or create videos and reels or TikToks. You can, you know, do the graphic overlays if you have a branded campaign going on. But you want to make sure your messaging and your topics are always coming before design, so it's laddering up to your goals. It's kind of like I wouldn't ask my designers to design an email for me if I didn't provide them copy first, so they know what they're designing for. Same thing for social. So if your organization doesn't have a huge library of imagery and video to use, you know, where can you find some creative assets for your calendar? Stock is a great workaround if you're short on resources. There's a lot of great free sites available as well. Here's just a few. I will caution that while the bulk of these are, you know, offered without copyright restrictions, they're under the Creative Commons public domain. There are some of these sites that do want you to either give photo credit or they have some additional licensing parameters. So just make sure you're checking that when you're downloading from sites like this. But there's lots of free stock available for you. There's also lots of paid stock if you have the budget for that. But if not, these are some options that should help kind of get you through for a while. When you're putting together your content as well, you want to make sure that you're visually telling your story so people understand really quickly what you do, but also that it's resonating with who you're trying to reach. Here's an example of kind of that goodwill that I was talking about where, you know, in the past, they were using a lot of like graphic overlays and everything's heavily branded. It's very seasonal. There's nothing wrong with that type of content, but it wasn't really garnering much engagement. When we did a deep dive, we figured out why. It was, oh, this isn't really resonating with the Goodwill shopper that we're trying to reach. So the version on the right, definitely more appealing to what their interests are and the types of content that they want to follow. It's tips about DIY and home decor and organization while working in mission and support in other ways. In terms of results, this is a really good example where the messaging on these is almost identical. We're talking about, you know, visiting these stores, but just changing the creative to lean more towards who's actually following the channel and wanting to engage with the channel made a huge difference in results. Instead of having these like branded, you know, kind of imagery, we switched to something that just feels a lot more organic to the shopper. Now, that being said, every platform is different. TikTok is one I get questions about a lot because it is sort of a beast of its own. The behavior on TikTok is very different. It's a lot of very fun videos and it's trendy, and you know, the challenges that are going on change week to week all the time. So you really have to kind of stay a little bit more in the know with TikTok. So if that's something that your organization is taking on and you're not sure where to start, or maybe you've been doing it, but you're running out of ideas, TikTok Creative Center is a great free resource for you. The URL is on the screen highlighted, but if you go there, you can search at any time, you know, what's trending right now, what songs, what hashtags, what challenges and dances. You can see what top performing ads are looking like. And you can really use that week over week to get some inspiration and ideas to come up with your TikTok videos. But in general, you always want to try to pre-schedule content. TikTok's a little bit more urgent, right? If something's trending today, it may not be tomorrow. But for things like Facebook and your LinkedIn and everything, you should definitely be pre-scheduling content. Now, that doesn't mean you won't have one-offs or unexpected things that pop up. You know, in Florida, Hurricane Ian just happened. Obviously, that impacted all of the pre-scheduled content that we had. We had to, you know, acknowledge, hey, this location's going to be closed, or, you know, this is going on, or, hey, if you want to support these people who've been impacted, here's how you can donate, right? So you're going to have one-offs that happen throughout the year. But in general, if you can pre-schedule the bulk of your content, that can help you be proactive and make sure your content's laddering up to your goals versus, oh gosh, it's Friday, we haven't posted this week. What do I talk about? Oh, I'm just gonna throw this up, right? You wanna be strategic. If you're not using a scheduler, there's tons out there. I saw in the comments people were talking about Later and Buffer. Those are great. Sprout Social, I know, is really popular. Hootsuite has been around forever. HeyOrca is what I really like to use, although it is a little bit more expensive. But there's even some free ones. If your organization is only using Facebook or Facebook and Instagram, Facebook Creator Studios is completely free to use. It's built by Meta. And you can handle all of your content there. So it depends on what your needs, what channels you're on, but there's lots of great affordable options out there for schedulers. Now that we've talked a little bit about how to build your strategy, here's some ideas to kind of kick your social up a notch. So number one, you should always know where your traffic is coming from online. So you should be tracking things. And that's true for all digital marketing, not just social media. But for social specifically, there's different ways that you can track your traffic. So one is Facebook Pixel. It's a little piece of code that you can embed on your website. I definitely encourage anyone to put that on their website if you don't now. Even if you don't plan to use it today, down the line, being able to retarget people that have been on your donate page in the past 180 days, for instance, and send them ads for your end of year giving campaign. That could be valuable to you in the future. So even if you're not going to do anything with Facebook Pixel today, definitely go ahead and toss that up on your website. You also want to make sure you have your Google Analytics set up correctly and your Google Tag Manager. Once you have that set up correctly, then you can use tracking links. I like to use Google URL Campaign Builder because then I can go into Google Analytics and I can see, you know, what campaigns and what channels within my campaigns got me the most results online. You know, how many people clicked through from Facebook? How many people clicked through from Twitter? How many people clicked through from that email newsletter that went out? I want to know to understand where I should be putting my time and effort in the future. I will say too, using URL shorteners can really help if you're going to be using tracking links. So I like Bitly, but there's lots of them out there. Hootsuite has one automatically built in. HeyOrca has one automatically built in as well. But if you're going to use these really long URLs with tags for Google, just make sure to shorten them before you put them on social media. Another thing you'll want to do if you haven't already is to set up your Facebook donation account. If you haven't done it already or you're not sure, you can go to facebook.com/donate/sign-up, and you can get started with the process. It takes a few weeks usually. Or if you aren't sure if you have it, if you go there, it'll tell you if you do. But this will allow you to run peer-to-peer campaigns with Facebook, those birthday fundraisers that you see a lot of. It also unlocks a lot of tools on Instagram that I'll talk about shortly. But this is an extra place that people can donate to. There's 0 processing fees on Facebook, and it's just one extra place that people can give. Now, I always like to couch this with, you know, Facebook fundraisers. It's not a cure-all. It's really more just the icing and the sprinkles on top of the cake. It's not going to replace your online fundraising efforts typically. On average, Facebook fundraisers generate about 5 gifts with an average gift size of $35. So even with Giving Tuesday coming up, if this is part of your strategy is Facebook fundraising, I would encourage you to take a peer-to-peer approach. So having all of your board members create their own Facebook fundraiser, or having volunteers in the community create Facebook fundraisers for you. So you have lots going all at once versus, you know, one fundraiser on your branded page that will probably only receive a few gifts. So where I see this being most impactful is peer-to-peer. If you have a Facebook donation account, you can also leverage Instagram giving tools. You can fundraise through Instagram stories. You can put a donate or a support button on your profile. You can fundraise through live streams. You can even do fundraisers right on posts. So you have to have a Facebook donation account to connect this to your Instagram. There's a few blogs that we've done that can kind of teach you the setup of that, or you can even just go to Instagram's help desk and there's directions there as well. But once you have your Facebook donation account set up, you should definitely go ahead and add this to Instagram as well. It's just one extra touch point where if someone wants to give, make it easy. Another one that I get asked about a lot is TikTok. So TikTok is rolling out some donations, but it is a little bit different. Unlike Facebook, the processing is not happening directly on the platform. It's happening through Stripe. There's also some eligibility requirements for TikTok. So you need to have a presence on TikTok already. You need to sign up for Tiltify and be approved. You need to register your organization with Benevity Causes, and then you need to set up Stripe on Tiltify for your processing. So not all organizations are eligible for this, but if TikTok is a part of your strategy, definitely something to look into to see if you're eligible, or to at least understand how to become eligible in the future. Another place that you could be fundraising with social media is on YouTube. YouTube giving also does have some eligibility requirements, so a lot of organizations, it doesn't make sense. But for some it does. You need to have a minimum of 10,000 YouTube subscribers to your channel. So that's usually the barrier for a lot of the organizations that I work with. But if you have a very strong YouTube presence, this is an option. You also need to be in the YouTube partner program, and you can't have a channel that's designated as made for kids. So it needs to be, a public channel. But if you meet those requirements, you can fundraise directly through your videos, or even if there's people that you work with at your organization, if you do any type of influencer marketing or anything, they might have channels that may be able to fundraise on your behalf. And kind of the last big recommendation that I have for social media is leveraging paid advertising, especially on Facebook and Instagram. Over the years, it's become a really pay-to-play space. Typically, I see about 1 to 4, maybe 5% of your followers organically see content without paid spend. So that means only a handful of your followers are seeing it, and then an even smaller amount is engaging. So leveraging pay-to-play, doing post elevation advertising where you're placing money behind your content, or even running targeted ad campaigns might be a good strategy for you. There's 2 different platforms that you can run ads on, Facebook and Instagram if you're doing Facebook advertising. You can also do third-party placements as well. Lots of targeting categories, all types of ads. You can use your own data even. If you have a big donor list, you can upload that into Facebook and retarget your donors on social. You can do lookalike audiences of that, etc. So there's a lot of options here for you. I would say though, if you're going to place spend behind your content, I would avoid using the boost button. I know some people play around with that. It's better than nothing, but your targeting is generally not as good as it could be. So I would encourage you to learn how to use Ads Manager to really take advantage of the platform. That's something that you really want to dive in on in DIY. Facebook Blueprint offers tons of free courses on anything you've ever wanted to know about running ads. Or you can certainly reach out to organizations that specialize in it, like Achieve does, or I'm sure there's many, many others out there as well to work with your organization. The last kind of thing, we've talked about how to put together a strategy. How do you know if it's working at the end of the day? With reporting. I would say if you have the time, try to block off at least an hour once a month to take a step back and analyze your results. What's working on social, what isn't, and then use that to make informed decisions about your future content. Instead of just throwing the same spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, pay attention and say, oh, these are the spaghetti pieces that stuck. What do they have in common? How do I continue to replicate this? So it should always be ongoing. You're reporting and you're analyzing what's working, you're implementing your planned content, but then you're also maybe testing and learning some new ideas based on what you learned from the month before. And don't be afraid to test and learn. Social media changes so fast. Things that I was doing a few months ago, we've already pivoted from because the platforms have shifted already. So experiment and pivot as needed. It's never be afraid. It's a short shelf life on social as well. But as you're going through and you're taking that step back monthly or quarterly, if you don't have time for monthly, some key performance indicators, KPIs to pay attention to include engagement rates. Engagement rates is always my number one. I don't really care how big of a following you have. If your engagement rate is low, that means people aren't seeing your content, or they're seeing it and they don't care. I'd rather talk to a smaller group of people that are really all in on a mission and can make an impact for an organization versus worrying about a really big follower count. So engagement rates is always my number one metric of success. Some other things to pay attention to, though, would be reach. So that's the number of people you reached and saw your content. Impressions, that's how many times your content was seen. So maybe you reached 20,000 people, but you had 60,000 impressions. You know that everybody saw some of your content more than once, which is okay. It usually takes 5 to 7 times of seeing similar messaging before we even realize that we're retaining it. So you want people to see your content regularly. Reach and impressions and engagement rate is also helpful if you're feeling stuck on your engagement rate. If you have really low reach, but your engagement rate with those people reach, that's okay. That just means maybe you want to invest in an ad strategy to reach more people. But if you're reaching a lot of people and your impressions are really high and your engagement rate's low, it means that the people that you're reaching, your content's not resonating with them. So you know that it's a content problem versus an exposure problem. So that's why I like to look at reach and impressions as well. Follower growth is also another good one to take a look at. That's always going to be a byproduct of a good social strategy. It's important to see growth over time, but again, it's not the metric that I get hung up on. I get hung up on engagement rates. And then over time too, you might be interested in, how much web traffic am I getting from social? If you're doing a big end of year campaign and social is a part of your mix, was that effective for you? Was it worth the amount of time that your organization invested in that, or was it not effective? You want to know for next year. And then also too, over time, if your social strategy is working well, you'll probably see an increase in comments and messages, just anecdotally, more people engaging with you. So those are some key things that I like to pay attention to. And then kind of one final thought to leave you all on before I open it up to questions. I always love this quote by Amy Jo Martin. It's a dialogue, not a monologue. Social media is more like a telephone than a television. This is not a brochure that you're passing out. This is one-on-one conversation back and forth, and it's really about community building and fostering that engagement with your followers and your supporters. If you have any questions, I'm sure Kim is going to open it up, but feel free to email me as well at erica@achievecauses.com. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Erica, wow. I learn so much every time I get to sit on one of your webinars. So thank you. And I know that we have an engaged audience with some wonderful questions. So I'm going to dive in. For those of you that put them in chat, I still am going to cover them. So don't fret. Katie had asked, would our engagement rate be based on our following or on our reach? She said those who saw the post.
Yeah, so those are 2 different engagement rates, actually. So if you know how many people you reached, that's going to give you a more accurate engagement rate for that post. But you could also do it based on followers if you don't have that information readily available. But it is kind of 2 different engagement rates that you're measuring there. I would say, too, to take a look at both, because sometimes your engagement on your post might be really good, but if you're only reaching that 1 to 4% of your followers and they're really engaged, that's awesome. But if you have this huge following and you're not reaching them, that's another place that you could be looking at your strategy to do better. So I would look at both of those engagement rates if you have that data.
Another question here is, what kinds of content works best on LinkedIn? We don't currently write blog posts, so I'm not sure what we can add there.
Yeah, so LinkedIn has really been impressive for me this year in particular. I've got a few organizations that I'm working with, and they added LinkedIn to their strategy, and their follower growth and their engagement there is out of control. It exceeded our expectations. And we're not doing, lots of blogs or anything. It's things like board highlights and, hey, we were featured in this news article. You can put even just things a little bit more about like who you are and what you do, or how you partner with others in the community, calling back on like past testimonials of, hey, last year we partnered with XYZ nonprofit for this community initiative, right? Just bringing more awareness to what you do, but making sure it's from the lens of you understand that you're probably talking to other like B2B marketers that are looking to be involved with you, or decision makers about whether they're going to sponsor or donate. As a corporation versus, maybe on your Instagram, you're talking about volunteer recruitment, or, hey, we have these services available if you're in need. Your messaging is going to be different there. Hopefully
Thank
I
you.
answered that, but if not, chat me
Yeah.
again.
If not, throw something else in the chat and we'll jump on in. But next one is our target audience are ticket buyers. How does Facebook work that won't limit us from promoting ticket sales?
Yeah, so I do tons of ticket sales with Facebook advertising. I do everything from, raffle fundraisers to event ticket sales. So some of that's just making sure, do you have the correct, depending on what the topic is, if your ads are getting flagged, that could be that you need to mark them as of social importance. A lot of the organizations that I work with need to have a special disclaimer on ads that run on Facebook and Instagram. Things like education, homelessness, anything like legal related typically falls under that of social importance category. So if you're getting flagged, that could be part of your problem. So I would say look into getting verified to run ads of social importance and then getting a disclaimer set up for your page. If that's not the issue, you definitely can use Facebook advertising for that. And Facebook Pixel can also help you with tracking conversions. So right now I'm about to launch an annual raffle fundraiser that I do every year. And with that, we know to the penny how much, people are buying of different raffle tickets from the ads for the fundraiser.
Well, thank you. And I do want to thank Olivia, also answered back into the group about the content on LinkedIn. And she said they put awards and community posts also. So how to find and search for ideas, for example, news or educational content.
Yeah, so I like to look at other social channels that I like. They can be nonprofit or otherwise, but I love looking at, luxury hotels and Coca-Cola and Apple and, what are they doing on social? Can I get some cool ideas from that I can apply with a nonprofit lens? Things like that TikTok Creative Center, you're seeing what other people are doing and what other ads are running. I'm sure there's a billion blogs out there that you can follow with ideas. I would just start checking out, what do you like on social? What's resonating with you? And then how do you twist that for a nonprofit lens?
Love it. Donna has asked, if you are just beginning and not active on social media, where and how do you start?
I think you just decide today's the day and we're going to get started. So you figure out, what realistically is reasonable for you. Is it 5 hours a month? Is it an hour a week? Is it, I've got 3 volunteers that can help me, figuring out what your limitations are. And then from there, you can figure out, okay, maybe let's start with one channel. So we're going to start with Facebook and we're going to post 3 times a week, and we're going to build a content calendar for 2 weeks at a time, right? And just start slow from there. And then once you start to get the hang of one platform, maybe start layering in others. Or if you have a lot of money and resources, you can hire somebody to do a lot for you. Or if you have a big team, maybe you can take on more at once. But really, it's just being realistic about what can you take on today and just getting started. And if you can only do one a few times a week, great. Do one really well instead of trying to do all of them not great, not consistently, right?
I think that's sound advice. Adam has asked, what are your thoughts on making the same posts across different platforms? Posting the same post on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Some say you should make your post different for each platform, and some say it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so I think that really goes back to what are your goals for social? Who are you trying to reach and where are they? So if you're reaching a broader community that that you can reach Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with, and your goals are more or less the same for those platforms, it's probably fine to do the same type of content. If you have really different goals for really different platforms like LinkedIn and TikTok and Facebook, you might be talking to 3 completely different groups that you're trying to reach. You may need different content. But I will say I've done social media marketing a really long time. I started in tech. I used to do luxury hotel marketing for very, very big hotel brands. And it was really common to post the same things on different channels at different times throughout the day, because somebody following me on Instagram may not be following me on Facebook, and somebody following me on Twitter may not be following me on LinkedIn. So it's not necessarily going to hurt you. I think you just need to be intentional about what are my goals and does this make sense to share it on the same across all platforms.
Wendy is asking, do you have a ratio of what to post as it relates to brand, stores, jobs, or community?
Yeah, so in that specific example, that was a Goodwill. So about 50 to 75% of that mix is related to brand and stores, but that's just because of that specific Goodwill and their objectives. I work with a few, and some of them are really focused more in on the B2B side of things and the job placement, and they don't have as many stores, so that's not a key focus. So it depends on the organization. But in that mix, 50 to 75% of content makes up brand and jobs, and then the rest depends on the month of, what are my holidays, what are my time sensitive things, and then filling in the gaps from there.
Awesome. And then I know you'd mentioned it, and so Deborah has asked, can you speak a little bit more about that weekly hashtag idea you were talking about, like Saturday? Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually don't love those, to be honest. I think they have a short shelf life. I think, social media holidays even, there's a holiday for every day of the week. And I think it might make sense to do, 1, 2, maybe 3 a month that are related to your organization. For example, if you're a marine ecosystem, conservation group, Recycle Day and, Earth Day, those types of things make sense to participate in, but is Taco Day relevant? Probably not, right? So picking a few and strategically using them. That being said, some organizations that I work with, they're posting every day or multiple times a day. And every Tuesday, they've got a special hashtag, and it's just something that they do. And they have people within the organization that are looking at that, like board members or volunteers that are sharing that content. It's strategic, so it makes sense to do it. But for the most part, I definitely wouldn't encourage anybody to get stressed out making up, special hashtags for every day of the week or doing every single social holiday, because then you're never talking about what's really important to your organization, and it has a short shelf life, especially if you're doing ads. So.
Well, and talking about shelf life, that ties kind of into this question. Judy is asking, with a calendar that what makes the most sense for the first 2 weeks of Giving Tuesday, because that is absolutely time sensitive. Daily was the follow-up question on that.
That's a scope question. How much time and money do you have to implement something, right? If you have a lot of time, yeah, go all in on that. But in general, I like to include Giving Tuesday as part of year-end fundraising strategies. So it's usually already baked and ready to go like August. We know what's happening for October onward, right? So if you're in one of those situations, yeah, it would make a lot of sense to have posts every day. If you are kind of just dipping your toe into Giving Tuesday and it's your first time doing it and you're just seeing what works, test and learn, play around. If you have time for every day, amazing. Use that as a test and learn for next year. But really, you should be baking all of that into your year-end fundraising if you can. We have a really good on our website, achievecauses.com, under free resources. There's a year-end giving guide that takes you from September to end of year every week, what you need to be doing for fundraising. I know QGive has some really similar resources for free. Check those out. That might give you some inspiration as well.
Thank you for reminding people. Yes, we do have a great resource library, and I'll share a little bit about that at the end. Do you have recommended, do you recommend any social media scheduling platform over another?
So I know internally at Achieve, we use Heyorka, but we use that because I really like it and it's client facing. So, we can have our copywriters in there doing things and leaving notes for the internal team. And then we can send a different link to clients to review and approve. So that's why I use that. But there's tons out there. I've used the gamut over the years. I think if you don't have much budget and you're really only on Facebook and Instagram, just use Facebook Creator Studios for now. It's free and it can do a lot. You need something that does a little bit more, Hootsuite, Buffer, Later, Sprout, all of those are solid options, but it really depends on your needs. What are you doing and what do you really need it to do? And is it worth paying $100 a month versus $10 a month versus free? Only you can answer that based on your strategy.
And then this is a good one. Is there a way to track Facebook donations? I know that with Amazon Smile, you just get a lump sum donation and don't get who actually donated.
Yeah, so you can download transaction reports of Facebook. If you have a Facebook donation account set up, meaning that you're getting your payments directly into your bank account, you're not getting the check from Greater Good or Network for Good, sorry. If you have a Facebook donation account, you can go to your Facebook page, you go to the fundraisers tab, and you can download transaction reports there. You are still somewhat limited by if the donor chooses to be anonymous, you won't get their information. But a lot of people are opting in now. It's becoming more common, so you'll get their name and their email. It's not a perfect system, but again, if somebody wants to give you $20 on Giving Tuesday on Facebook, let them give you $20. You know, it's better than trying to force them on your website and they may not click through. So you can, but there are limitations.
Have you noticed that posting obits is statistically something people demonstrate a higher engagement, and then obits that are related to your organization?
I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't quite.
Yeah, I know. I'm a little curious too. Wendy's asked, so if Wendy's still online, maybe you might want to do a follow-up to explain. But have you noticed that posting obits is statistically something people demonstrate a higher engagement, and then in parentheses, obits that are related to your organization?
I'm not quite sure what you're asking.
Yeah.
Wendy. I'm so sorry. Feel free to clarify. Full disclosure, I'm getting a little hung up on obits. I'm not sure what you're.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it
honest.
substituted when she was typing. So if you're on, Wendy, please chime back in. Noah has asked, does it hurt to post to all of your other socials as well as LinkedIn when the content works best for LinkedIn?
It's not ideal, but I think it's definitely, you know, you should always be testing and learning. If you have a post on LinkedIn that you think is really impactful and you want to see how that performs on another channel that you maybe wouldn't post that type of content, try it, test and learn. I mean, worst case scenario, you get really low engagement rate and you learn that, oh, that didn't resonate with this audience. So I would test it out. But again, really think about, you know, who are you trying to reach and are they on this platform and does this content make sense for them?
And then Olivia has asked, do you recommend putting your social media icons for the platforms you use on your business cards?
Yes, I love that. Or even in your email signature, it never hurts. Bonus points if it's all the same at username, then you can just have, you know, all the icons and then at, you know, for instance, Achieve, it's Achieve Causes. So that's our handle across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. So it's easy to find. But yeah, it definitely doesn't hurt you.
Well, that's all the questions that we have.
The exception to that is if you,
oh, go ahead.
The exception to the business card is if you're not posting regularly or your social is a bit of a mess right now, maybe not. But if you're putting effort into your social strategy, yes, you can showcase that.
Erica, I cannot thank you enough. I mean, it's always incredible, but everything you covered today was just spot on. I've learned so much. It sounds like we had a very engaged audience and hopefully they learned a lot. I did want to share as we're closing up that we do, as we both mentioned, both Achieve and QGive have some great free resources, some Giving Tuesday resources specifically that we have, and we will be sending you a follow-up email tomorrow with a copy of the presentation deck in case you didn't get all of the notes, a recording, and some links to some of these resources, and the worksheet that Erica had mentioned. We also, QGive just launched our user community. So for those of you that are QGive clients, hopefully you've seen the emails and you can get involved because our partner network like Erica will also be joining that user community at some point in the future. And if not, it's a wonderful way to exchange ideas like I saw you guys do in the chat today. So please, if you're a QGive user, look for that. If you're thinking about QGive, it's just one more reason. So thank you for all of you again for joining us today. If you would like to reach out to anyone on the QGive team or the Achieve team, the contact information is here. Please don't forget to take the survey as you're hanging up today. And again, thank you. We hope that all the information we covered helps you in all of your social media and your event fundraising. So thanks again. We'll be in touch. Thank you, Erica. Thank you, everyone.